Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another HR Fridays from On Demand HR. Every Friday here at 11:30 a.m. on Facebook and YouTube. We have a specific topic each week. As you know, let us know any future topics of interests. Let us know your comments and please interact with us regarding HR Fridays. It is intended to be interactive where we answer all questions that we can. The whole concept of HR Fridays is built around providing advice which is reality and a real understanding of risk, not just scaring you with stories about certain things and trying to let you know that there are employees coming for you, trying to sue you or things like that. The whole concept of this HR Fridays is giving balanced and real advice, which is based on a real understanding of risk. Today's topic, however, is slightly different. We are talking about actually recruitment today and what we're seeing in terms of current trends in the market. And today I'm talking with recruitment specialist and leader of on-demand recruitment campaigns, Stephanie Joseph. Stephanie, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well. I'm really interested in what you've been up to of late. Obviously, you're leading on-demand recruitment campaigns, and we understand that you've been quite busy of recent times. Just tell me, in general terms, what are you seeing from clients? And what are some of the general trends you're seeing at the moment?
Yeah, we're surprisingly quite busy. Obviously, with COVID, there's all this media scaring around lack of jobs and unemployment, but we're actually quite busy. I think clients are looking for alternatives to the standard recruitment service and looking at ways to try to cut that cost and trying to do it themselves or find another alternative.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think that's a great intro into sort of what we wanted to talk to you about, today, actually. So really interested in some of your insights on, trends. And I kind of wanted to break this down for our viewership in three main categories. So I might start with, first of all, highly mobile employees. And certainly one of the observations you shared with us, Stephanie, is that, the majority of new hires leave in the first 12 months unless there is progression, promotion or salary increases. Tell us a little bit about that. And what are you seeing out there?
That probably goes into another topic of how you can retain your employees, but it also is a characteristic of candidates on the current market where they're obviously very impatient and they move quite quickly, and gone are the days of being able to sit around and wait for everyone to come in for a month and then going back to review your candidates.
Yeah, that's great to know. We spoke recently about some statistics around this, and I think it was something like 45% of candidates have been employed with their current employer for less than 12 months. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And those that stay, there was something along the lines of half of those only stayed because they were either promoted or they were given some sort of a salary increase or additional benefits.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So what you're seeing on the recruitment front is you're actually seeing a lot of the people who are applying for the roles that are being run by on-demand recruitment campaigns. You're seeing a lot of candidates to their current employers for 12 months or less and looking to move on.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't sort of sit back and say, oh, short period of service, because most people are going to have a short period of service.
Yeah, interesting. And that's interesting how obviously that's changed significantly from years gone by. Let's also talk about technology. So there's also this concept of candidates being able to, submit mass numbers of applications in a short period of time. Tell us a little bit about that, Stephanie, and talk us through the viewership as to, what are we seeing out there in respect to technology and how it applies to recruitment.
Yeah, so technology, they can upload their standard resume to platforms like Seek or Indeed, and it's as simple as hitting apply and their resume is sent off to the board directly and their application submitted to you. They're no longer sitting back and trying to customize their resume or their cover letter specifically to your job. They're not placing value on your job in particular. They can sit there on the lounge in front of the telly and apply for 20 or 30 jobs in a night easily. They're just not viewing your particular role as being the most important thing to them at the moment.
And what do you think employers can do to adjust to that? Are you seeing anything that they should be doing in terms of adapting to that style of candidate these days?
Obviously, you need to move quite quickly on anyone that you have had come through that are a stronger candidate. Base your opinion off their past experience only, rather than things like how much effort they've put into their application to you specifically. Things like structure of your advertisement to make it easier for them to find what you are looking for specifically, so you don't end up with masses of candidates that are not suitable and not meeting your expectations. There's been quite a number of different changes that you need to do to adapt to that sort of candidate.
Do you think employers are coming? Do you think that they are ultimately, coming to terms with the fact that their roles are not that special, that candidates don't care about customising their cover letters and CVs? What are clients saying about these sort of things?
It's mixed. Some, I think, have been bitten by this in the past and are starting to adjust to the new candidate on the market, but we still get feedback from clients saying, oh, this person doesn't look like they put a lot of effort. There's a spelling error in this one. This one doesn't even refer to our job title. Do they even know who they're addressing in their cover letter? And they don't. It's a standard template that's uploaded to the job platforms. Partly that's probably the responsibility of the job platforms for allowing that to, be uploaded so easily. But partly it's just a characteristic of the current market.
Yeah, and years gone by, where you had 8% unemployment back in or 7% unemployment back in the early 2000s, and now you've got really 5% unemployment. Would you say that that's one of the key differences, that there's such a shortage of candidates now that candidates can afford to be that kind of blasé about their applications?
Yeah, so pre-COVID, definitely 5% unemployment makes for a fairly restricted and limited talent pool. But even now, even though we've got higher unemployment rates, we're now competing with government initiatives where why would I go to work and earn an extra couple of $100 a week when I can sit at home and earn a decent income for nothing?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think we were talking last week, Stephanie, about how Job Seeker, I think, was something around $400 a week at the present time, and yet we have clients advertising for part-time and casual roles paying $600 a week, and there not being a whole heap of incentive for those people to apply for those sorts of jobs, because it's easier to be on the couch, so to speak. You're finding a little bit of that with certain roles?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we keep thinking, it'll change at the end of September when the government initiatives expire, and then they get extended again. So it's just pushing that out further and further. Eventually that's going to change, but who knows when at this point.
Yeah, no, that's great, Stephanie. Thanks for being down on that technology side of things. And I guess the third thing I wanted to talk to you about was really around the skepticism or increased skepticism of cryptic and non-branded ads, where there's an ad with limited details about the job, or ads that look like they're just fishing for pools of candidates. What can you tell us about that?
Some of the feedback that we got from candidates is that when we've had clients try to advertise these sorts of roles where they don't want to release the name of the company or the salary figures for whatever reason, we find A, they don't get a lot of applications, and B, candidates are skeptical of whether they're even a legitimate advertisement. And what they've had in the past is that they've had recruiters trying to build databases of active candidates as a selling point. And realistically, those candidates are trying to apply for a job that doesn't exist.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. That probably segues into our next kind of point about, I guess, where on-demand recruitment campaigns has adapted to this current marketplace and candidate kind of attitude. And I guess potentially we're looking at this sort of new future of recruitment and where we're heading. So let's have a look at this first of all. So tell me, what are your views on company branding first of all, and what are some of your recommendations around what businesses should be doing on their adverts with respect to company branding?
So we always recommend that we're quite clear and transparent with the candidates for making it legitimate and making it quite clear to the candidate this is a real opportunity and we are looking to recruit somebody to our business. If you've got a good brand and a good reputation, why wouldn't you sell that and it also lets us sell the benefits of working for the company specifically. You end up with an ad if you're keeping it unbranded and I guess unclear as to what the role is. You're not going to stand out in the pages and pages of roles that are being advertised. If we can stick your logo on there, at the very least, somebody's going to scroll through it and they're going to pick up your ad just because it stands out versus the others that don't.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I mean, my assessment of it and looking at this, quite frankly, is really there's no downside of having a company branded ad, and there's actually a lot of upside because you are, really putting that brand to the candidate. You're celebrating the specific benefits of the brand, and I guess a cryptic or nameless ad fails to really deliver on that. Tell me about some of the job advertisement features. So what are the sort of things that you recommend to be in a job advertisement these days?
Well, obviously, you've got to create something that looks professional and is pleasing to look at. I don't think that's really ever changed. That's probably always been a prerequisite to putting together a good job ad. But the impatient candidate wants to be able to skim read the ad, and they rarely read something in its entirety. So it's important to keep it short and sweet where possible, and break it down so that they can, if they're looking for a company that sells a lot of benefits, point those out so that they can skim read the ad and pick them up. If they're just looking for something that they meet the qualifications for, point that out so that they can skim read it and pick it up quickly.
Yeah, no, very good. And in doing that, like, what sort of ad length do you think is appropriate? Like, what sort of ad length do you think works well in terms of words? Have you got any thoughts on that?
There's some research out that says an ad of 150 to 300 words is the optimum length. That's obviously quite significantly short, and not all ads are going to be able to meet that, obviously depending on seniority and the duties and those sorts of factors. But if you can, keep it as close to possible as that range.
Yeah, and look, I love that they're talking about social media and passive engagement. I mean, this is just a fantastic topic to talk about. And, with the market being so competitive these days, it really isn't enough to be just on the traditional job boards and just be advertising in the old ways. Tell me a bit about, social media and passive engagement and what sort of things that businesses should be doing in this regard.
Probably links back to our other point about employees being highly mobile at the moment and taking advantage of that. And people like us are able to use these tools to stick the job under the nose of a candidate who may not even have been looking. Things like posting on Facebook groups or other social media platforms. Then you can also use tools like Seek Talent Search to, a candidate may have recently placed with somebody and isn't necessarily thrilled by the role. It isn't exactly what they expected. You might pick them up a couple of months after they've already found new employment. And you've obviously got tools like LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, so what you're saying is you're trying to find ways of putting this specifically under the noses of people who aren't looking on specific Facebook groups. Is that right? That's the kind of strategy or approach you're taking? Yeah,
and you can obviously, those groups are restricted to an area or a location, or there's some groups that are, mums and bubs pages. If you're looking for somebody who's part-time, they might be looking to only work part-time. You've got accounting specific pages, for example, that you can post these roles to, and you end up with people that are sitting on their train on their daily commute and scrolling through Facebook, and this job pops up under their nose when they weren't even looking.
Yeah, I appreciate you that. Just one final thing before we wrap up today. I just wanted to talk about review and action on applications, because this seems to be another thing that's quite important. Certainly with candidates being so impatient and being able to apply for lots of roles, it seems like the turnaround time for employers to respond is much more urgent than ever. Can you just talk us through that briefly, Stephanie, and what some of your thoughts are on that?
Yeah, not only are they impatient, which means if they don't get a response, they're going to continue to apply for 20 roles a night and keep, trying to get other opportunities come their way. You also have candidates who are sitting there waiting for you to engage with them. They're not necessarily following you up. You also have a competitive market where if you don't respond to somebody who's good, they may be offered a competitive role in the meantime, and you may end up with nobody at all.
And what sort of time frame do you see, Stephanie, that you really need to respond? Like, how quickly are these candidates expecting contact following application?
We try to make sure that we are responding to at least screening the resume within the first 24 hours.
Wow.
After that, obviously, you can do your phone screen, and we do find that if you don't follow up with an interview shortly after that time, in a couple of days, they've either got another offer on the table or they're going for other interviews, that they're simply not sitting around waiting for you.
Yeah, and I guess this just goes back to a final point on that around delays. And what we're still seeing from what you're telling me, some employers that are delaying with respect to decision making, and what kind of reasons are they delaying, and where are they struggling in that regard?
Part of the competition that's on the market is that we're getting pretty low numbers of applications compared to historically what they're used to. Where you might have gotten a couple of hundred in the past, you might get 20 now. And if you sit there and you're waiting for somebody better that maybe will come along, you may find that you're sitting there and you've got one candidate that's good, and you're not responding to them and you're not picking them up, and you lose them in that time. You need to be comparing the one suitable candidate that you've got to people that you've interviewed before, to people that you've got currently working in the role, or people that you've had previously, rather than waiting for 3 candidates to shortlist to make a decision.
No, that's really good, Stephanie. Appreciate your thoughts on that. It's very interesting, and I guess that comes back to that whole overall kind of attitude about, and probably the change for employers in realizing that their roles might be very important to them, but are not that necessarily very important to candidates who have got who are spoilt for choice, who have multiple ways of applying, who have multiple interests from people. And I guess the hardest thing for employers to accept, particularly some old school employers, is that it's very much a candidate's market. Would you agree with that sort of assessment?
100%. 100%. It's a candidate's market. We need to adjust.
Yeah. Stephanie, thanks so much for your time today. Thank you so much for talking through, on-demand recruitment services, approach to recruitment. Thanks for talking through some of the trends. For those who've missed this session live, obviously you can watch this again on Facebook. But thanks very much, Stephanie, for your time today. And we will obviously be talking about your services with various clients as we go into the future. From Clint Indrell here, Managing Director of On Demand HR. For just those who would like some more information about our services, or particularly the recruitment services, visit www.ondemandhr.com.au. Please let us know of any topics you would like in our HR Fridays in the future. And from me and Stephanie Joseph, it's goodbye for now.